encouraging flexible thinking. This video is about talking to your children before they start school, talking to your students when they're in school. And one of the biggest areas of the curriculum is called patterns and relations. And it is something that needs to be taught every day. And it, in my view, it doesn't work well as a unit. Works much better if it's embedded. And in most of the other videos, you've heard me talking about, how to get unstuck and breaking up the number, that kind of thing. Patterning can become a topic that becomes incredibly rigid, even though patterns are something we create, they're something we use. They're not well taught. In other words, we often are trying to teach people what the right answer is. If you just look at the little pattern that I have on the table here, I've covered up something underneath. And if you ask a student, what have I covered up here? Well, you may think the obvious answer is obvious, but my friend Werner Liegi said he asked this and the kid said, circle. And Werner is very good at opening. In fact, I have on my website, I have a list of ways to ask questions that basically I've learned from listening and watching Werner Liegi, who's a professor at the University of Victoria, retired at this point. How do children think? And he is superb at this. So he asked this, and he had something covered up, and he said to the student, what do you think goes in there? He said, a circle. Why? I like circles. And if you put a circle there, and then you put a circle there, and then repeated this pattern again, that'd be an absolutely correct answer. And so one of the issues is you always need to ask, the question always needs to be double. What do you think is covered up, and why do you think that? Can you tell me a different way to do it? And so, of course, most of you probably thought there should be a square there. But there are tons of patterns like this. They appear on tests that cause all kinds of problems. And we have to be really careful that we're not telling kids what the answer is or that we don't have. So for example, 8, 17, 23, 25. This is taken off as sort of like an IQ type quest for primary kids. And I would like you to think about it. Which number doesn't fit? And why do you think so? And I just asked the people who were videotaping this session for me what they thought. And one person thought 8, and the other person thought 17. A third person thought 33, and I've had other people choose 25. So now what about the reasons? So the person that was asked 17 said, it just doesn't seem to fit. It just doesn't seem to fit. So then we asked the other person who was doing this, well, why do you think Dakota thinks 17 doesn't fit? And we came up with the reason that, Cody said 8 and 25 is 33, so 17 couldn't possibly fit. Well, there are many reasons why 17, and you may be thinking of one yourself. At this point, 17 is the only one that is only divisible by itself, and 1. So in other words, it's a prime number. When asked Cody why he chose 8, he said it because it's an even number. Now that is the answer that the author of the question was expecting. However, there are many reasons. 8's not only an even number, it's a cubic number. If I take these things, I can make a cube out of 8 of them. And so you could say it's a cubic number. It's the only one there that is a cubic number. 8 is, and then 25. 25 is a square number. It makes a 5 by 5 array. 33 is the largest number. 8 is the smallest number. There are almost an infinite number. Some kids will say, I chose 25. I like 25. And this is especially true of young kids. So with young children, this is all about the classification process. You're constantly asking kids, so you have these little animals and you just pick them out and you say, which one doesn't fit? And so we have a buffalo here, and we have a tiger here, and we have a deer. Remember the deer family? And then we have a sheep. And if you think about this, there are just literally hundreds of correct answers. You know, which one doesn't fit? You could pick the cat because it kills the other three. You could pick the cat because it's the only one that's never going to have horns, and we don't know whether this one's ever going to have horns. You could pick the sheep because it's a baby sheep. There are just literally hundreds of correct answers to that question. And try it on a small group of people. Try it with your class, but be very, very open to a lot of different answers. You know, try to think of some of these, you know. What's your reason? Can you think of more than one? Can you think of the way, which one do you think your friend would pick? Try to think of at least two ways. So basically, we want to choose, we want to ask questions that encourage flexible thinking, that encourage students to tell how they get their answers, to encourage students to say why they think something is correct, and have to be very careful about not making judgments about what. Because if you ask somebody, why do you think that's correct? It's really hard not to give you a correct answer.